Is Trump scared to hit Iran's key oil facility, as one wrong move could trigger a global oil shock he cannot control? Trump has ordered more than 5,000 strikes in Iran, yet the vital oil hub Kharg Island remains untouched. This tiny Iranian island that transits up to 1.6 million barrels a day is still slipping oil out to sea, even as US bombs fall on 1,000 other targets. After Israel's fuel depot strikes shrouded Tehran in toxic black smoke, Washington backed off and signaled that Iranian oil sites were a red line. Has a spooked Trump effectively told Netanyahu, no more strikes on Iranian oil, to avoid a fierce retaliation on Gulf energy targets? Amid the wider Middle East conflict, a vital Iranian oil hub has so far remained untouched by airstrikes, with no reported hits on its facilities. Iran's Kharg Island, which handles about 90% of the country's crude export flows, has so far evaded US-Israeli attacks despite intensive bombing elsewhere. Energy analysts say that a US bombing campaign against Kharg Island could effectively take almost all of Iran's daily crude exports offline. Kharg Island is a 5-mile-long coral island in the Persian Gulf that sits roughly 27 miles off the Iranian mainland coast. The oil terminal was originally established by the US oil conglomerate Amoco in the late 1950s and early 1960s. The facility was seized and brought under Iranian control during the 1979 Islamic Revolution. It serves as the terminating point for pipelines from central and western Iran's major oil fields. The island typically facilitates the transit of about 1.3 million to 1.6 million barrels of oil per day, making it Iran's primary export outlet. Kharg can also store around 18 million barrels of oil as backup inventory. The island's jetties extend into sufficiently deep waters to allow very large crude carriers and other supertankers to dock and load directly for export. Experts also warn that a successful strike on the site would likely trigger a sustained increase in already surging global oil prices, rather than just a short-term spike. Oil prices have already jumped by around $20 per barrel, driven in part by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz to tanker traffic since the war began. Media reports have hinted that the White House has explored or discussed the idea of seizing Kharg Island as a possible wartime option. Analysts say such a move could be used as a way to severely weaken or cripple the Iranian regime economically by cutting off most of its oil revenue. Sustained loss of Iranian oil export from Kharg would feed into global shortages and push prices higher for consumers worldwide, not just in the region. In addition, a further 3.5 million barrels of oil per day are estimated to be offline because of the ongoing closure and disruption at the Strait of Hormuz. Kharg Island's complex export infrastructure could take years to repair if it was seriously damaged in a strike. Such long-term disruption runs the risk of driving an economy-shaping increase in global oil prices. A successful attack or seizure would deny the Iranian regime a vital stream of oil income that currently underpins much of its state budget. At the same time, taking Kharg offline would raise fresh doubts about Washington's stated intention of creating a better future for Iran. Capturing and holding Kharg would require a sizable, sustained operation with ground, air, and naval forces to secure the island. Iran could continue pumping crude from its fields but would struggle to export significant volumes without access to Kharg's pipelines, storage, and deep water loading jetties. Meanwhile, US production itself would not increase overnight to fill the gap, leaving global markets tight as Iran's exports are choked off. Together, these factors could set oil markets in a tailspin, with heightened volatility and price shocks. The US has struck roughly 5,000 targets in and around Iran since the war began, but has seemingly refrained from bombing Iran's core oil infrastructure. Israel, by contrast, attacked 4 Iranian oil facilities on March 7 near Tehran, though the US later publicly distanced itself from those specific strikes. Those Israeli attacks blanketed parts of Tehran in toxic black smoke and suspected acid rain, prompting health warnings from officials and international agencies. Axios and other outlets report that the US has since asked Israel not to carry out any further strikes on energy facilities inside Iran. An Israeli official said Washington also requested advance notification before any future strikes on Iranian oil facilities are conducted. Observers note this is the first time during the war that the US has clearly reined in Israel since their joint attacks on Iran began on February 28. Earlier in the conflict, Iran attacked Gulf energy facilities, but those strikes caused limited damage and did not significantly disrupt long-term production, according to early assessments. A US official told Axios that Trump views major strikes on Iran's energy infrastructure as a doomsday option, to be used only in extreme circumstances. According to reports, this option is being held in reserve and would likely be considered only if Iran first launched serious attacks on Gulf oil facilities.
25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.